All right, I'm always dancing to that music. All right, hello and welcome everyone to the Magical Witchy World
Yes.
TV. I am Star Ravenhawk.
And I am Rhonda Allen. It's awesome to be back this week.
Yeah,
And
it is. It is. And now on with the show.
on with the show. Our special guest this week.
All right, so tonight we are proud to welcome Frances Billinghurst to the Magical Witchy World TV. Hi, how are you?
Hi, welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here
Thank
with us tonight.
you. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to first, as we do every time we have a guest, we love to go through and introduce you to anyone who catches our show. We want them to enjoy not just our conversation, but learn a little about our guests. So let me go through your bio first. All righty. Frances Billinghurst is an initiated witch, magical practitioner, and metaphysician who has been exploring the occult for over half her lifetime. Hailing from south of the equator, her approach is somewhat old school and hands on. As such, she is begrudgingly adapting to modern technology and can often be found muttering to herself. A prolific writer, Frances is the author of Dancing the Sacred Wheel, one of the few books solely dedicated to the Sabbats in the Southern Hemisphere, Encountering the Dark Goddess, a journey into the shadow realm, Contemporary Witchcraft, Foundational Practices for a Magical Life, and On Her Silver Rays, a guide to the moon, myth, and magic. She is the editor of Call of the God, an anthology exploring the divine masculine within modern paganism, and her essays have appeared in numerous publications, including Llewellyn's Witch's Calendar, The Cauldron, A Mantle of Stars, a devotional to the Queen of Heaven, Naming the Goddess, Witchcraft Today, 60 Years On, and The Fairy Queens, a collection of essays exploring the myths, magic, and mythology of the fairy queens, amongst other titles. When she is not writing, Frances can be found attempting to replicate the hanging gardens of Babylon on her porch. Love it. On her patch of Australian dirt, designing devotional beads, crafting magic, and journeying between the worlds. Frances can be found on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and she can be contacted through the Mystical Soul Academy. And we'll be scrolling that URL shortly, mysticalsoulacademy.com. So, welcome, Frances. Thank you so much for joining us
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah. And we kind of wanted you to kind of say where you're hailing from first and what part of the world are you hailing from right now?
Yes, well, I'm actually coming to you from Ghana country, which is in Adelaide, South Australia.
Oh,
So
wow.
the Ghana people are the traditional custodians of this land, and as such, it's something that I like to do. I like to acknowledge their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I also think in this time and age, it's important, if you don't know who your traditional custodians of the land that you're on are, I think it's about time we take a look and find out who they are, to have that really deep connection. So
Yeah.
yes, from south
Well
of the
said.
equator in Adelaide, and it's in the afternoon for me, so it's not quite the witching hour.
Right.
Oh,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
that's awesome. So
And actually,
at
what
least it's
she
not the middle
failed,
of the
but one
night.
of the things she failed to mention is it's in the afternoon for her on Saturday, and we
Yes.
are on Friday
Yes.
night. So she's a
I,
day ahead of us. Well, almost a day ahead of us,
I'm
right?
a magical practitioner. I'm going back in time for you.
There we
That's
go.
awesome. That's
Well
awesome.
said.
All right. So we'll begin with one of the first questions we ask is like your journey, the arc that you took and what you referred to yourself of as you began through that journey and where you ended up now and how do you refer to yourself now?
Oh God! How long do we have?
Mm.
I'm old. I've done a
Not
lot of
that long.
things. but I think was one of those curious children who always wanted to know things. I grew up in the country in New Zealand, and thankfully my mother was a librarian, so she'll bring me back all these sort of tell me why books, tell me more books, what created the universe. And
Right.
and also being in the country, this was my excuse. I never really had a Orthodox Christian upbringing shoved down my throat, because basically my parents had better things for us to do, like chase the sheep on the farm.
Beautiful.
But that sort of, so I was always a seeker. We did do a little bit of Bible studies, but never gelled with me. Our Baptist neighbours down the road didn't like the idea that I wanted to know where the dinosaurs came in the Adam and Eve story, and it was actually suggested that maybe that their school group for the kids wasn't for me. And I thought, fine. So I went on the sort of search to find the answers to the questions that I was seeking, and that took me to Australia in the early 90s, where there was an explosion of the metaphysics, the New Age movement, for those of us who were around in the early 90s who remember that time. And that's where I started getting into the metaphysics, and almost like a scene out of, I don't know, some Hollywood movie. I went for a walk around my neighborhood one day and came across this funky little shop, no signposts or signage or much anything. Went inside, and there was a sign offering ceremonial courses in high magic. Not knowing anything about that, I think I'd picked up a secondhand book of Vivian Crowley at that stage, her first book, Wicca, the old religion for the new age or the new millennium at that stage. Mine was the black cover, not the cerise cover. And my introduction to magic was ceremonial magic, and did the course, joined the coven. At that stage, they said they were Alexandrians. Went through an initiation. I was studying Celtic mythology, ran off to England, danced around stone circles, came back. And it's almost been like a domino effect to where I am now. I've always had a deep interest in, well, magic, the mysticism, all those sort of mystery schools, the initiations, that process of explaining or attempting to understand the universe. I think that couples with my interest in metaphysics or esoteric sciences. This year I was fortunate enough to go to Egypt, which just blew my mind completely. Wanted to get there for 30 years, finally went there on a tour where they sort of went beyond the official viewpoint, shall we say. They don't think that things were just 3000 BCE. We're going like back tens of thousands, even more, if you looked at the hieroglyphs. And so, yeah, I tend to now say I've got three main streams. I have my interest in mythology is a huge thing. My mother was really big into mythology, being a librarian. I sort of use mythology like I did in The Dark Goddess, of looking at the myth and then sort of like pseudo-psychology, again, sort of finding out who we are, our place in the universe. Then there's that metaphysical, esoteric science, layering. I've actually gone off and done my level 1 yoga training teacher. Apparently I'm a yoga teacher. I can't tie myself up in a pretzel, but I really like all the philosophy. This is where the New Age sort of thought has come from, or came from that yogic teachings of the chakras and the auras, and it all comes down to energies. It's sort of marrying the East and the West, and the mystical. There is something I don't know about nowadays, but I think when you find yourself drawn to a practice, if it's spiritual or magical, mine was the Alexandrian tradition. I've actually gone back and got myself reinitiated, so I'm direct lineage, no questions asked. But there's always been a call to your soul. You can't. There's been times where I haven't been active, but when there's so much, especially today, when there's so much out there, when you find what sings to your soul, basically, what really calls you, that's the only place that you can go. I have no interest in learning about Druidism or becoming a Druid or understanding Druid practices, I sort of include that, I guess, in my connection with the earth, being, I call myself a stranger in the strange land. The Australian environment's very unique, very different.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't fit into the books that we get from the Northern Hemisphere, even the books, my own book. Every part of Australia is completely different and it's challenging, but I just bring it back down to working in my own sort of patch of dirt, as I call it, and relating there. So I suppose that's a little bit of my
That
background.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right.
No, that's fabulous because it does cover, it does go into what I was going to ask you, which was really what brought you to the work that you do, the practice that you have. But let me just clarify, if we were to, if you were asked, how do you identify? Do you identify as which magical practitioner? We read in your, in your bio, metaphysician, of course, it's so.
What do I identify as?
Yeah.
I think it depends on who's asking the question, because back in the day, I was,
Fair
I'm
enough.
a witch, I'm proud, bloody, bloody, bloody. And I've just got so tired of explaining. And no, I don't, not going to turn you into a frog. I'd like to, but no, I won't. No, I can't kiss. I've gotten really over that. I'm so tired of that. So if they are just
Yeah.
so we use Harry Potter terminology, if they're a muggle, I say earth-centric spiritual practitioner. And they sort of look at me. So and these days with the manifesting with the moons and tree hugging, that's, people sort of understand that. So you don't need to go too deep. If I'm talking with magical people or spiritual people, again, it depends on whether they're going to run screaming to the hills or whatever. But initiate, witch, magical practitioner, I answer to. Sometimes it's just me, what mood I'm feeling
Yes.
like at
Yeah.
the day
Right.
that I'm in. So,
Fabulous. Excellent. Thank you. And just to segue a little bit, going back to that, what brought you to the world of, of your practice, you did explain that part of it had to do with just trying to understand more about the,
The things that she's
so
been
where did the
drawn to,
dinosaurs?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
uh,
exactly. No,
uh,
that was really interesting conversation, and I am curious to know,
mm,
just since we're on this, what brought this type of
mm,
question. You decided to move to Australia from New Zealand,
yeah.
and then your writing. Now you've remained in Australia, and your writing is a lot is heavily influenced by that.
Mm.
Tell us more about what is the difference? What is the thing that sings uniquely about being in Australia, and how it's helped you develop your magical practice?
Um, Especially in comparison to the Northern Hemisphere. And I've really noticed this in the last 10, 15 years,
Mm,
which is showing my age, with the influx of social media and also the shift how people are coming into, say, the craft in general, magical practices as a whole, even basic stuff. We have access to a lot more information, but it's like that old school hands-on face-to-face teaching has sort of been replaced on some levels.
mm,
I'm not saying it's a good
yes.
thing or a bad thing, it's just a shift. So in the Southern Hemisphere, and we have these debates all the time and they never go away. If you're reading from something from Reddit or Instagram, majority of people are in the Northern Hemisphere. That's where the majority of the population is. But there's five major differences between the hemispheres, starting
Hmm.
off with what we are now. It's just like the time zone differences and all that. The fact is, like, you're in winter or going into winter, I'm coming into summer if
Hmm.
our weather ever warms up. So we've got that direction. Our sun goes across the sky differently. In the north, in the northern hemisphere, the zenith, your peak of your sun's in the south. Ours is in the north. That the tilt of the earth changes everything. That wobble, our star systems, a lot of the constellations are different, and even the way the moon looks is different. We actually see a
Mhm.
different side of the moon as well. You have I call an extroverted moon with the horns pointing outwards, or you have
Mhm.
an introverted moon with the horns pointing inwards. And
Mhm.
getting people to, especially in the Southern Hemisphere, to understand that, or even getting Northern Hemisphere, especially authors and teachers who have sort of an online presence, to
Mhm.
acknowledge that. And more than just, oh, you people in the Southern Hemisphere, you do your own thing. And it's just
Mm.
like, there is actually more. Our energy is different. And especially in Australia, we're the same size landmass to the US.
Mhm.
So if you
Mhm.
think about that, and if you place Australia over, say, Europe, I think it goes from Scandinavia all the way down to Africa, top of Africa,
Yes.
and it goes right across it. So it's a huge continent, but every pocket in it, we've got all these little microclimates, we've got all these deserts, we've got about 7 or 8 deserts, and every
Mm.
desert is different. And I suppose it's very similar to America, where, say, all the indigenous people there would have their own sort of stories and myths and medicine and practices. We have it
Yes.
over here. There's the Aboriginal peoples here. I think there were some 300 the sort of clans or language groups. And
Mm.
everywhere I live on the Adelaide Plain. So in Adelaide, we've got the
Mhm.
Kaurna people. But within half an hour, if I just go over the hill, there's another group of people there. If I go down
Mm.
south, another hour's drive down there, I've got the Nurundjeri. Then we've got a sort of a gathering of clan groups north of me. So it's really
Mhm.
important to sort of,
Identify.
and not all of those stories connect either.
Yes.
Mm.
So in a way, I think it's Australia's. We've got our challenges, but in a way, we've almost been forced to really stop and connect with our
Yes.
land. And this is one thing that's always got me interested in America. It's just like, why does somebody, say in New York, circle call them quarters the same way as someone in Florida? Or yeah, you because you've got
Mm.
different climates and microclimates as well. But I don't
Yep.
know. When I've raised that to American friends, I've never thought of changing things around. Some are from the East Coast and West Coast. How do you cast your circles? Is it all the same way, or do you do things differently? Because we
And
do.
Mm.
that is
That's
excellent.
interesting.
That's an
Yeah.
excellent question,
Mm.
and it is actually good work when people take the time to connect with what is the land that
Mm.
they are on, and what are the plants
Yeah.
around
Mm.
them and the animals around them and the stories, the beings, the
Mm.
creatures. Yeah, it impacts their
And I
Yeah.
magic. It
think
does.
it,
Absolutely.
like with my interest in finding out why, to me, and it's just thoughts in my own head, to me, that helps me understand where I am at. Also, I said I call myself a stranger in a strange land.
Mhm.
I'm from a colonialistic background. I do have ancestry somewhere. I'm one of the sort of English, Scottish, Portuguese, French. I'm a mongrel, basically. I'm drawn to cultures that have nothing to do with my DNA. I'm living in a land that I wasn't born in. And so it's just like, and also the land here is, well, all land is living. All land have their divas, their spirits, whatever we want to call
That's
them.
Right.
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 That's right.
And it is sometimes we just need to sort of, in order to sort of find out who I'm finding out I also need to connect with the land and see what resonates. So again, we get the books saying, oh, you make offerings of honey and whatever. Well, that might
Mhm.
be well and good, but my experience with some of the Aboriginal spirits in my area, they don't like honey. They don't, it's not for them.
Right.
So a
Right.
lot of it is just sitting there and just sitting there
And
Yeah.
and
getting to
saying,
know what's
hey,
there and not just listen to the books, but really getting to know the
yeah,
land, which is what we're supposed to do. Isn't that what we are?
Exactly.
We profess to be part of the land, earth based, and all of that. So that means
mm,
getting to know the piece of land of the earth that you're on. So it makes sense.
That's
yeah.
exactly
Makes sense.
right.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah,
Um,
and I do think that Gardner and Alex might have mentioned that a little bit in their teachings, but it's just like, again, it's sort of taking that core body and making it a little bit more personal, I think.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
what would you, again, from your point of view, not anybody else's, because again, you just made that point that, your point of view from where you are land wise is very different. From what your point of view, what does it mean to be a witch, or that practice that you're doing? um you know
Oh, that's a can of worms. Because again, I think, and
Uh,
even so, I call myself an initiate, and it's just even with an initiates, I know some people say, oh, well, we're not pagans and we don't identify with this. And I'm thinking, well, I call myself a pagan because it's a nice self umbrella term, but I understand where they're coming from. But
mm,
to be a witch, I think the whole terminology of that's changed since I was initiated. I do think that I sort of break it down to, again, coming back to the three strands that I'm interested in. I think, to me, and the craft, well, my craft in particular starts off with, it's always been religious. There's always been, and a number of years ago, someone called it as the other. Whether it's
mm,
God, goddess, ancestor, your higher consciousness, there is something more than just me and my higher self. And
mhm,
that sort of makes you accountable, but it's not sort of like, saying, Christian teachings where you sort of are humble, or humbled, but you're not sort of like handing over power. It just means that you've almost sort of got a guidance, or someone sort of going, I'll say, in my experience, clip you around the head. If you're sort of getting off track too much, they'll sort of bring you back to center. They'll let you a lot of free round. So it's religious. And it could even be the earth. It's just like the giving of us, the energetic exchange. There's a sense of, again, the mystery. It's the awe. And that makes us humble, that we are just such a minute speck in the whole living, breathing organism that's the universe that we're in,
right, right.
which I think can actually help when we get too much into our head. A lot of it
mhm,
I do is sort of pseudo psychological working, that sort of stuff as well, but a lot of it's deep diving into us. There's a big connection between our environment, however you want to see it, whether it's just energetics, finding your sense, your place in the whole cosmic web of life. But being a witch too, you have that sort of extra benefit in understanding that everything's energetics, which means this is how we move our magic, our shape, our will, and sort of dance with the stars, sort of thing. To me, it's more about moving with the tides as opposed to going against them.
Right.
I'm not saying you can't. So when everybody's going, I want to create a spell to bring this into my life, or that, or repel this. From my own personal experience, the more that you are in line with the ebb and flow, each
mhm,
time you go through the wheel of the year, the more that you release and then bring in, and you do it with the moons on the smaller cycle as well, the more in alignment with the energies around you. And I find the less I need to purposely go out there and to manifest or to repel. Half the time it's ebbing and flowing and being aware of my sort of energetics and controlling my own energy. So it's like bringing the power back into me,
Right.
as
I love
opposed,
that.
That's cool.
I love that. Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
you're leading us into yet another topic, which was, you're talking about working with the ebb and the flow. How is magic a part of your lifestyle? How do you include magic in your everyday?
I think you get to a stage when you're old and crusty like me where
Oh, gee.
magic's all around you. You don't need to, I mean, I don't mean to sound blasé, and there are
Mm,
times when I have to physically go through a practice. And
yes.
these days everybody likes to do a practice, and their practice is often separate from their normal mundane world. After a while, that practice of lighting candles or speaking, calling in your ancestors or God, goddess, becomes part of your everyday. So therefore, your magic is around you every day. And I think that's it. My magic is, I said, really rarely do I find the need to do spells specifically,
Hmm,
because
hmm.
maybe it's just I get into my car and before I pop the key in my ignition, I've recited some little prayer or chant so I can get down to the shop and not get road run or anything like that, or
Right.
and it just becomes part of my day. I'm fortunate I have a backyard, a garden, so being out in nature, weeding and sort of like taking care of the earth, cutting flowers and just putting them on my ancestral altar for no reason, just because. And a lot of it is just cause, and being aware that, oh, I'm feeling a little bit funky today, so I either need to go for a walk or I need to light some candles or light some incense, just something like that. To me, it's very much in my everyday practice. I always wear a set of mala beads. A number of years ago, I went through a bit of a health crisis, and one of the practices I picked up was mantras and chanting the mantras in particular. And so
Beautiful.
that's when I started making 90 mala beads, but also other forms of devotional beads, because I found that process. And I have been called, been asked if it is that cultural appropriation, which I still don't, maybe it is, or maybe it isn't. I don't know, but it works. It works for me. I'm sitting there, I'm using a sacred chant that you're hooking into that energetics of thousands of people around the world chanting mantras. And it actually, on even a pseudo-psychological level, it helps get out of the headspace. And I think a lot of people today either turn to magic or witchcraft because they're trying to figure out who they are. And sometimes we need to just sit and allow all that head stuff to sort of filter down.
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, what would you be able to tell us that a little bit about what's become important to you?
Oh, again, it's this connection, and not only, and I think it's also looking at the world around us. And if I can be so bold in saying, it feels like sometimes it's going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm going, what the heck's happening out there? Come on, people, what are we doing? And trying to figure out a way, or coming back to center. I think that's very important, especially when we're going through challenging times like what we're seeing on our planet at the moment. And then looking at what can I do? And the worst thing you can do is sort of get caught up very emotionally about things. And I think this is, and I see that especially online when people are wanting some sort of magical advice over certain situations, which could be very, relevant. But a lot of it is a responsive, it's a very emotive response to something, as opposed to taking a step back and going, okay, firstly, where's my role and my responsibility to think, and then what can I do? And sometimes all you need to do is step back, find your sort of your calm, your center. And then I view everything is energy. If I am the pebble gets thrown into the pond, if I can be peaceful, offer peace, or come back to a place of calmness where everything else is going to hell in the handbasket around me, then maybe my quieter energies can affect the next person around me, like when you throw a pebble into a pond, and affect them a little bit. So then they can come back to center and have that flow on effect like that. And a lot of it, it's on the surface, it may not sound a lot, but when you come back to that place of calmness, and I know it sounds very Buddhist as opposed to witchy, but
No, good.
when you come back to that place of calmness, then you can make a more logical, more reasonable, more rational
Decision.
response. As opposed to acting very emotive and getting very caught up in things. And I think that also appears if people come into your life or treating you wrong, whatever. There is a lot of sort of like vengeance out there, and I'm not saying it's not, it's wrong. It's like I think there's time for everything, a rhyme and reason for everything, but sometimes it's just like it's sort of like if we understand the energetics, we're getting caught up into this negative spiral. So I'm not all love and light either, but it comes back to, do I want to, what I said in Wizard of Oz, this is my circus, these are my monkeys, and sometimes we don't need to get involved. We need to look at our monkeys.
Like too many
Well
reactions,
said.
in other words. Reacting rather than acting. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love that you are really speaking about inviting everyone to empower themselves to do what? To get themselves back into a
Mm,
place of calm, and that does in fact impact or influence or have influence
mm.
on the world around them, and those others around them,
Right.
which now leads to a question that I'd like to ask, which is what about your, the work you have with community right now, or tell us a little bit more about this, how community fits into your work at this moment.
Um, I'm sort of going through a transitional period. I used to be very active out in the community. I used to always do formal gatherings,
Mhm.
whole public events, as well as running my own group. And then sort of the world's changed, whether it's COVID, the lockdown, whatever. And what's emerged out of that seems to be everybody's gone online, or there's been this sort of like it's been easier to go online. Now I think people are wanting to come back and sort of work face to face in the flesh, so to speak, again.
Mhm.
So we're sort of in this transitional phase.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of hesitancy out
Mhm.
there as to sort of moving into more the sort of face to face physical arena again. There's a little bit of hesitancy there, but
Mhm.
I'm very much an energy. I like doing things practically, and there's only so much that you can do online as well.
Right.
But I am
Yeah.
sort of setting myself up. I can see the benefits online. Then you can reach a wider audience, etc. You can also, it's easier to share ideas. I am hoping to I've been putting the feelers out for the last couple of years to see where people are at, and then I've got some courses coming up. There's some open events that I've got in the pipe work for next year. It's sort of like ascertaining suitable venues, or I'd like to go back and do the public full moons again, whether it's just me or, and
Mhm.
it's how it started off. I wanted to be out in the park under the lunar rays. So I thought, well, I'm just
Yeah.
going to put it out there. So I'm going to be dancing out there if anybody wants to join me. And that's how they
Right on.
started.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
That's
beautiful.
great. It
eh,
kind of sorry. Were you finishing up something? I'm sorry about that.
no,
Okay.
that's fine.
I
And
think
so this is what started. Yeah.
it kind of segues into what would you like to see us or witches accomplish? And you kind of said some of it there by saying you wanted to see them coming out more, or even though there's a little bit of hesitancy. Um, but what else would you like to see them accomplish, or us in general accomplish?
Oh, that's a bit of a world peace, and so
Right.
I find within the witch communities we fight amongst ourselves just as much as everybody else. There's nothing there, but I think I know back in the day, when I say back in the day, I'm talking about the early 90s, even 2000s for the younger people these days.
Yes.
And I still get it being an initiate. There's always that sort of like us and them attitude. And it was very big back then. Or you can't be a real witch unless you were initiate. And now these days, it's almost like, oh, you're a Wiccan, so you can't be a real witch. And I'm going, excuse me, what? So I think we need to move away from these personal labels.
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
too many of
At the end of
those.
the day, and I get confused as to what label I'm supposed to be half the time
Mhm.
because it
Mhm.
changes so much. And I think
Yes.
and to me, a lot of that's ego. That's just our ego that we need to have a little label on ourselves. And at the end of the wider scheme of things, I suppose, also having more of a religious sort of thread coming through what I do,
Mm.
it's not important.
Right.
Divinity, ancestors, whoever you want to sort of work with, spirits, your own higher consciousness doesn't care what you label yourself as. That might be offensive to some people, but they
It's
don't
true.
care.
It's
They
true.
don't care,
Right.
care your gender. They don't care your race. They don't care even if you've been initiated since the 1880s or all the way through. If you or you're the first cab off the rank, so to speak, they do not care. All they want to do is what you do and what is right for you
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
and
Mhm.
what sings to your soul. And I think there should be
Yes.
more of an acceptance. and I know with the Witches Fest Sky that you organise, you have this big gathering of a whole range of people, and that's what even when you're doing it online, and that's one thing that I've really liked. It's just like, yes, I might not be a druid or a Satanist or Themalite or whatever, but it's interesting to find out what someone else does
Yeah,
and why,
absolutely.
Yes.
and that's all right. Okay, you do it that way. That's fine. It doesn't resonate with me, but that's okay. I'll just do it my way.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Um, well, you started hinting at this next question, and that is what projects do you have coming up or things that you're thinking about doing?
Or even events, or even you can even add it with your events, because we're coming to the end of
Yes.
your part there. Yeah.
yes. Well, I'm actually, I said, I'm doing some things online, and I sort of weave all my threads together through the Mystical Soul Academy. So, okay, in January, around the first full moon of each year, and this has been taken from another sort of culture who they used to, or they still do. I think it's around the 1st of January, and it's in Brazil, where they go down to the waters and they do the offerings for Yamaya. And I
Yeah.
really love that idea. So I do
Yeah.
it around the first full moon of every year. There's a local
Nice.
beach here, and I put it out there
Love.
saying, and
Yeah.
I call it the blessing of the waters. And we
Mhm.
use
Mhm.
Yamaya, but we also include all the waters. And we
Yes.
start off with a bit of a Buddhist thing where we actually pour water over our hands and bless our hands. So it's sort of like a multicultural
Yeah.
and multi-religious sort of event. So that's
Beautiful.
open, and that's gold coin donation or loose change or whatever. And that usually gets donated off to, we have dolphins in our Port River, so to one of the
Oh,
organisations there to help look after the
beautiful.
dolphins there. But at the end of January, I am doing an online conference. It's a week-long conference called Reawakening the Sacred Self.
Mm.
It's free to register through the Mystical Soul Academy or reawakeningsacredself.com. We can find it through my website. And I have gathered together 23 or 24 spiritual people from all around the world. I've got some witches, I've got some druids, I've got some seed star channelers. Some people that I'm going, to me, they're a little bit left of field, but that's fine. And we just get together, and
Yeah.
for me, it was really interesting listening to their interpretation of the sacred or the authentic
Yeah.
soul,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
what that actually
Mhm.
means. And there's this thread about connecting with the earth and what we can actually do to move forward on that. So that's happening at the end of January, and then I'm hoping to, and this is something that came to mind through listening to a talk that Phyllis Crow wrote or spoke about. But when a woman gets to a certain age, she starts to become invisible.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
and I was thinking, going, I might want to do something like a circle of crones or something, so all us old biddies can get together and have a cup of tea and
Love.
tell you
Love
and
it.
share our wisdom, and the younger biddies can come along too. And whether it's, I haven't
Yes.
decided whether it will be online or whether it will be physical or both. But I thought that will be nice for, again, trying to rebuild the sense of community again.
Excellent.
And then, of course, I have my magical interest, and that's the next thing. Is just like I'm going back to see my high priest next year and saying, well, what can I do? Where's my next stage? I said, having reinitiated myself,
Yes.
what do I need to do now to start sharing the
Right.
teachings again?
Right. Very
So,
nice. Very
Excellent.
nice. Excellent. Yeah.
Moving into 2024 with lots on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
agenda.
Absolutely.
That is awesome.
And we wanted to
Well, we
thank
are
you. Right. Go ahead, sweetie.
yeah, I was just going to say we're scrolling your website so people can get all the information about the events you're planning, the ones that you've scheduled, and any upcoming things on the website that we have scrolling right now on the screen.
All right.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Star.
no worries, no worries. We just wanted to thank you for being with us tonight. We are very
it's
grateful
all
that you
right.
joined us, or this evening, because you're in the afternoon there. It's so
Yeah,
hard
I'm
to
afternoon.
fathom the thought patterns in my head with that, but it's all good. It's all good. But thank you again so much for being with us, and
That's all
we
right.
bring you back another time.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm more than welcome to. So, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing is that, like, I'm hoping to get over to America in August as well. So I'm hoping to get up
Well, if you can
get
come over
on
in
the
Oh,
July,
East
let us
Coast.
know. The beginning of July would be awesome. But you never know. Okay.
we would love it. In any case, thank you so much, Francis. This has been a fabulous conversation.
Yeah.
And again,
Absolutely.
we appreciate you joining us. Have a great rest of the evening. And
Yes.
now, a word from our
Thank you.
sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our astrology time.
I'm always dancing to our music. Alrighty.
Yes, me
So
too.
it's astrology time. All right. So tonight is the last three of the
Yes.
signs and what the tarot cards are assigned to each of the decans in these signs and the meanings to them, again, based on where they are placed in a reading and what other cards are around them. So, Rhonda, go ahead. And
Yes.
tonight's last three signs are Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces.
And Pisces. So tonight we begin with starting with Capricorn Decan 1, December 22nd through the 31st. The tarot card associated with this decan is the Two of Pentacles, the Two of Pentacles. And of
Um,
course, I'm working with, again, the Modern Witch Tarot. I just dropped the box, so can't show you the box, but it's the Modern Witch Tarot, and this is the Two of Pentacles. So this card is a card that represents the man in the Two of Pentacles, or in this instance, the female in the Two of Pentacles, needs to find balance and moderation in their life. Definitely balance and moderation. All work and no play make Jack or Jill a very dull person. If this person allows no time for relaxation or fun, they're liable to become tired and tense, and they may find their moods fluctuating like the waves behind them. And in this instance, you don't see the Two of Pentacles showing waves behind him, but up one day and down the next. Materialism and matter is important to this decan, but also the cycle of time. This is where their prophetic ability comes from. This is where their prophetic ability comes from, the innate knowledge of natural law. One pentacle is higher than the other. One pentacle is higher than the other, and surrounding them is the figure of eight, the figure eight, or the lemniscate loop, that figure eight loop. Can you see that?
yes.
The infinity symbol. All energy is recycled, whether it is good or bad. For energy is simply energy and cannot be destroyed. What goes around comes around. So the key things for this card and what it means to Capricorn decan ones: material decisions, financial decisions, juggling finances. And you can clearly see that because the pentacles also represents the coins,
Yeah.
right? This is about cash flow. It's about how your money is getting from one place to the other. Balancing and juggling life. Definitely. This is the ups and downs that we deal with, and the fact that we are often, that juggling act keeps us on our toes.
Yes.
Money comes in and goes out. So it's that yin yang, up, down, left, right. And we can see that with the twos throughout the tarot. But the money coming and going, money transfers, money doubling. This also can represent, or it's the decan that represents financial stress and definitely mood fluctuations. There's a situation here with management of paperwork, stock market, that notion of profit and loss. So, what is your own personal profit and loss sheet looking like? It's about writing, publishing. It is also about journalism and things that are in circulation.
All right.
So that's Decan 1.
Okay. And I'm working with The Witch's Tarot by Ellen Dugan. Okay. I tend to
Mhm.
stick with this deck a lot because it's so easy. And it's just that, I love this deck and how picturesque all the things are. So it
Oh,
draws
fabulous.
me. Yeah. Okay. So this is for Capricorn Decans 2s, which is anyone born January 1st to the 10th. And the tarot card associated with this decan is the Three of Pentacles. This card depicts the architect and specialized tradesman. See that? Can you guys see it properly?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
It is about learning practical skills and putting long term commitment into building something that will last. Churches are both coming, churches are both something useful, lasting, and sacred, whatever that spirituality is for you. In this incarnation,
Mhm.
you are being rewarded at long last for all the efforts that you've been putting in for so many years, lifetimes actually. Others are prepared to back you now and offer support where in the past you struggled alone with your ideas and plans for the future. So, some of the key things for this card and what it means to the Cantus, Capricorn the Cantus, are growth, being able to study and learn the scholarship
Mm.
that you possibly had attained, be able so that you can be able to learn the mentorships that you've picked up along the way. Maybe you've even worked in teamwork with different things that you've worked with, or maybe even have been an apprentice of some sort. And the material growth that you've earned, that you've got the right to, and building on that solid foundation that you've put in. Okay, all of that time that you've put in, that solid foundation that you've built, yes, commitment to it, and that long-term plans that you've got filled out, and your craftsmanship that you have worked on and developed and be able to put out there, and the quality and dedication of your work, all of that has come to pass for you. All of that shows in the work that you do, your attention to detail, the hard work,
Mm.
and you are allowed to have that promotion. You've earned that promotion and recognition and the achievements that come with it. All the efforts are all paying off, and your determination, all your goals, the renovations and time and building trade, or whether you were an
Mm.
architect or had created plans, all of that has come to play for you, and you are showing them all your craftsmanship. So keep that in.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. So Capricorn Decan 3s, those born January 11th through the 20th, the tarot card associated with this decan is the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles. Oh boy, people have thoughts about this, but let's talk about it. Fear of scarcity is often related to the Four of Pentacles. So you may worry unnecessarily about money if you have come from a background of poverty. This leads you to hoard or penny pinch even when you have enough money. And this card is often looked at as that person who is kind of hoarding and penny pinching. There's another side to that card, but let's continue. This card supports the general tenacity of the goat. Nothing is thrown out if it can be renovated. And if something has to be binned or tossed in the garbage can, it will be recycled or given to charity. The Four of Pentacles is a positive and welcome card for savings. This is the other part I was just mentioning, pay attention. It's a very important card, a very positive card, and a welcome card for savings, investments, or retirement plans. It indicates that you are accumulating goods, wealth, and possibly even power. Your financial situation has been steadfastly growing over a period of time, many lifetimes, actually, many lifetimes. But this is not by chance or even by pure luck. So, some key things to consider for the Capricorn Decan threes with this card, the Four of Pentacles. It's about financial stability and security, it's about savings and your investments, it definitely has to do with your business acumen. So it's about business. It's about your ability to manage your wealth, accumulate wealth. It's a bit, it's about materialism and being materialistic, a bit of that. It's also a little bit about being a miser or a penny pincher. That's okay, managing your funds. It may have a little bit of selfishness added to it. That is one of the cautionary tales. Self-interest, that is important. Sometimes it is seen as being a little stingy or greedy. There may be a little bit of obsessiveness with this, and you can see this. I mean, the center of this person's being is their coin.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about acquisitions and hanging on to things. It can even go to the level of hoarding, something to, another cautionary tale. But it's also about ownership and having control over your financial situation. It can mean that you are a little rigid. It is a four. So there is that rigidity there, the structure. It is a bit closed off, and perhaps there may be a bit of a blocking energy with this card. Sometimes there are a little bit of, there's obstruction in the way, even to the point of, because remember, Pentacles also represents the physical body, it can also represent constipation, things being a little rigid and stuck. It's about isolation and boundaries. Fear of scarcity, that thing that we have to be, careful about, and keeping to yourself. But it also means success in exams. So you're very good with testing. Something to consider for your Capricorn Decan threes.
All right. So we move on
Mhm.
to Aquarius. And the Aquarius Decan 1, those born January 21st to the 30th. The tarot card associated with this decan is the Five of Swords. Can you see that properly? Feels
Mhm.
like I'm
Mhm.
down or up. I'm not sure. Its tarot meaning is not that pleasant, and it is seen as being self serving or as someone who profits from the anguish of others. Karmically, we have to look at this card as this decan having suffered abuse from ruthless actions or even of having been the perpetrator of harsh behavior. Altia's eagle in this decan is a predator, so it's not surprising there can be a sharp edge to this decan. The Five of Swords can sometimes symbolize the overcoming of inner demons and negative mindsets. The battle fought for personal freedom would not have come quickly or easily. This battle may have been a personal challenge for you and one that others believed you could not even succeed in. Being born into this decan gives you the tools to fight deftly with intellect. Swords generally represent swift and decisive thinking. So you think very quick on your feet. And the key things for
Mhm.
this card and what it means to Aquarius decan ones: change. You feel like sometimes you can't win in certain things that you try to do. Lose all the things that you have sometimes, or defeat. And sometimes you feel you may have to surrender to it or walk away, or because you've become battle weary. But this has occurred over lifetimes. So you have to see things for what it is. Yes, there can be a loss and maybe sacrifice or even self sacrifice, but break
Mhm.
down into with communication, non negotiable things, and sometimes even being a bully or intimidating things or people. Okay, forcefulness, aggressiveness, maybe even attacking or considering all the time everything as a battle, because
Mm.
sometimes you take things a little bit too seriously. Even when there is a conflict of any kind, you become very hostile, maybe, or maybe you have been in a hostile situation or abusive situation. So the stress of all of that, and maybe some vicious arguments, um, and some of it might be you becoming a bit too smug or gloating over things that you've accomplished, looking after number one only, very self-serving, because in your head the end justifies the means.
Mm.
Okay, so there's a bit of self-destructiveness, um, some ruin, maybe repossessions and things like that going on within what's going on right now. A bit of receivership, even standing up, maybe even for yourself, fighting for your corner, your part of the world, fighting back. But some of it is overcoming personal challenges, and maybe working on not being so antisocial, a lack of conscience sometimes, or morals or integrity, will play into this. So you have to kind of see how you can balance yourself as that. Maybe even you've worked on some underhanded behavior, and you want to try to change some of that. Maybe threatening or even becoming the villain, or a villain playing on you, or
Mhm.
too mercenary or too violent. So you have to think of things a bit better for yourself. Otherwise, you'll end up with a little bit of warning, that they would say, into crime and theft, or even trickery, deceit, and lies. And unfortunately, rape, murder, mugging, all those different things play a part. So it's things
Mm.
that you have to look out for that you don't want to fall into.
Right, right. Good point. So for our Aquarius Decan 2s, those born February 1st through the 10th, the tarot card associated with this decan, Aquarius Decan 2, is the Six of Swords. The Six of Swords. In tarot, this is often known as the moving away from troubled waters card. But what can we say about this? So, yes, moving on and finding a safe harbor. That's what this card is telling us. And it is karmically, this suggests that you are moving away from more turbulent lifetimes to one that is more stable. Absolutely important. So, decantus, there is also a feeling of being protected. The figure steering the boat in the Six of Swords is often symbolic of a spirit guide or guardian angel who stays close to you during times of trouble, comforting and guiding you through dark times. This card may also indicate that this life is one of many travels where you are searching for your spiritual home because you are not quite rooted in that which was your place of birth. It's interesting. It is interesting that this card features water when there are so many aquatic and riverside animals associated with this decan of Aquarius. So, some things to consider for our Aquarian Decan 2s. This is a card that represents moving on. It's about moving away from the issues and having that ability to slowly heal, slowly heal. It's progress, but it's slow progress. Going from these more turbulent waters to calmer waters. And again, finding that safe harbor. This is about finding shelter in the storm, finding shelter in the storm, where you're finally in a situation where things are beginning to calm down. It's a period of overcoming, or it's an energy of overcoming difficulties and finding perhaps mental stability, because again, swords are about thoughts and ideas, things up in here. So finding that mental stability, mental relief, it can have the energy also of lethargy and a bit of weariness and feeling a bit despondent. And you can see that reflected in the person in the front of the boat, that sense of weariness or being a bit um, despondent, or again, lethargic, feeling somewhat defeated, or indeed carrying negative attitudes or beliefs, because, yeah, all those swords, again, representing thoughts and ideas, they're being carried in the boat with that person. So, carrying all of that stuff with you, it's about pulling back and getting out of. So it's like you're trying to remove yourself from the challenges or the difficulties. There's the energy of putting distance between you and something else, or perhaps even running away from something, uh, finding your way to making an escape. That's another part of the energy. It's the energy of having an accomplice, while that figure represents, perhaps spirit, but that can also represent an accomplice or an ally, or again, receiving assistance, and that's key and critical to this card. Receiving assistance, support, a guiding hand, perhaps somebody helping to steer your course or your pathway through this lifetime. It is again spirit guide, a guardian angel. This is the energy of transition and the work of journey. So again, Aquarian Deccan twos, this is about your journey, perhaps travel over water, um, holidays and vacations. It can also include smuggling. So that's something, smuggling by water, or just the fact that you're dealing with boats and vehicles on the water.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right. So, Aquarius Decan threes, those born February 10th to the 19th. My son is one of those. Okay. So, the tarot card associated with Decan, this Decan is the Seven of Swords.
Mm.
Okay. The Seven of
Mhm.
Swords. This card is about plotting and can be quite sneaky. Uh-huh. Successive past lives may have placed the native into such dire circumstances that they may have resorted to breaking the law to survive. These folk learned to live by their wits and built up a persona, sorry, of the charming rogue, being resourceful, thinking on your feet and trying to outsmart your opponent or competitor is part and parcel of everyday life. And there are times when we all must try to get into someone's head to find out what it is that makes them tick. They spend a long time getting to know their opponent by watching and analyzing their tactics so that they can go out and play a psychological game. This fits with the testing tendencies that this decan displays in general. Okay? And some of the key things that you should be thinking about with this card for decans three, Aquarius decan threes, is resourcefulness. They are to a degree. They're logic minded, their sense of reasoning. Okay? They want to be ahead of the posse, ahead of the everything. And they adapt really, really well to things based on what they're facing. They're very flexible. They have a tendency to plot and plan things out strategically. They play mind games. They can be tactical, maybe. They have a daring behavior. There's danger, but they have this courage through it all. They take risks. They rely on their own wits. They have a lot of new approaches to things. And their whole outcome is beating the enemy at their own game. And they do have a tendency to sometimes run away from certain things or make an escape from things that they don't see in their way, getting away with it. The whole idea is to just do that. So if they make their escape in time, they'll get away with it. Not looking where you are going because you're going at it alone. That lone wolf mentality, taking sole action, acting without conscience. Okay, very cunning and sneaky mindset also. And they can be
Mhm.
underhanded, because they kind of do undercover things. They're very self reliant, unfortunately, a bit of infidelity, sneakiness,
Mhm.
theft, sometimes deceit, lies, because sometimes they may feel like they have enemies in their camp or in their lives that they have to watch out for, or spies of some kind. And sometimes they are very good in the military or being in that
Mhm.
mindset of
Mhm.
the military. All right.
Excellent. So now finally onto our third and final sign of the night,
Yes.
Pisces, and this is Pisces Decan 1, February 20th to the 28th. And the tarot card associated with this decan is the 8 of Cups.
Oh, look at
The
that.
8 of Cups. Yeah. So, much inner and outer work needs to be done. You might feel the need to withdraw from the rat race, to focus on what is of true worth, and to hear your inner voice. Yeah, I love this card. There's so much going on here. But in any case, so Pisces, Decan 1, the Eight of Cups does not imply that your personal journey will be easy, as many superficial and shallow layers will have to be peeled away before you will find your personal truth and spiritual core. It is clear that this deccan does not focus on the rat race of the business world, rejecting material gain. Karmically, this deccan signifies turning your back on old behavior patterns where you have stayed too long in a situation or relationship that was unfulfilling. This lifetime is a wake-up call, and you may have one very draining partner with whom you suffered so much that you decide once and for all, never again. So, some key things to keep in mind for our Pisces Decan ones. This is the card representing impermanence. So, in this lifetime, it's about impermanence, it's about what is finished, it's about what is over. Okay. You're walking away, moving on, letting go. That's work in this lifetime. You've had enough, and you're turning your back on the past, and ending of cycles. So this is, it's Pisces, so it's that mutable energy. So yes, it's an ending of a cycle. It's a wake up call. Soul searching, that is absolutely the work of this deccan. You can see that figure leaving all their chalices and heading towards those mountains. They are soul searching. They're doing something. They're on a quest to finding themselves. This is a voyage of personal discovery, a voyage of personal truth, and again, the quest for your own spiritual core. A lot of self-analysis, and not a lot of self-analysis, and the exploration of self. It's looking for deeper meaning in the world around you, yourself, etc. It's looking for answers and facing the facts. Lots of that. It has some energy of loss of interest also, which is interesting. But it does represent that the heart is no longer in it. And that's something to consider, because what the cups represent, those affairs of the heart, things that fill the heart. And here, this person has left all their chalices behind. So their heart is no longer in it. They have to find something whatever that thing is that's missing, they have to find that missing something. They feel the void, they feel that emptiness, they feel a sense of loneliness. And so it's time for them to move on in this lifetime. It is about moving on and leaving emotional baggage behind, leaving a bad situation. It's about withdrawing from that, withdrawing in general, retreating, going within, but searching for happiness, searching for that thing that's going to fill the heart again. Emotional strength and courage. Cups are about emotions, right? It's about emotional maturity and healing, and getting through periods of abandonment and the feeling of abandonment and separation. Um, Again, that feeling of the heart is no longer in it. You're moving through this emotionally draining and weary time. There's a level of exhaustion, fatigue, even listlessness. But time to take a break, time to do some traveling perhaps in this lifetime. It's also recognizing that there is a sense of, since this figure is moving off on their own, so it could also represents that inner shyness, or that feeling of being a little timid in this lifetime.
All right. Okay. So, Pisces decan those born March 1st to the 10th. The tarot card with this decan is the Nine of Cups. Okay. In the terms of karma, the Nine of Cups can symbolically represent being rewarded after a period of hard work and effort. Whatever you have been working on has come to successful fruition, and you can sit back now and take all the praise and applause you have rightfully earned.
Mm.
People now see you in a different light, and many will be envious of not only your abilities and skills, but also because of the wonderful inner light that glows in and around you. So, like the phoenix that resides in this decan, there is the potential for redemption and resurrection
Mm.
once you have served your penance. There can be suffering in early life, whether it's in your past lifetimes, possibly through overindulgence or addiction, and it might be also in this lifetime. However, repenting and living a simpler life devoted to good works could bring one spiritual riches in later
Mm.
life. And some of the key things for this card and what it means to Pisces Decan 2s is happiness. You're looking for your success that you've earned, your wishes coming true, realizing your dreams, that good life that you've been trying to earn all this time, that good life you've been pushing for, abundance, prosperous rewards, your achievements and accomplishments, and working on your self love, your inner happiness, pleasing you. You've
Mhm.
become emotionally mature and you're working on your high self esteem because, again, that self love, right? That self confidence, self respect, that positive, optimistic that you've taken on, emotionally fulfilled in this time. So you've had that high mood and happy as you are. You're completely set with, I am in all my glory. I'm good. Okay. And that crest of a wave, that cup run it over part. Okay. You're content, satisfied, cheerful, joyful, and that warmth with that's inner warmth that you have, that you're smiling on the outside, and the laughter and the
Mhm.
congratulations from everyone around you. You're on cloud nine, the cat that got the cream and pleased us punch because you've made it. You're sitting pretty right now. It's almost like you want to pinch yourself or slap yourself upside the head. Well done. Smug and gloating. I'm triumphant because I did it. I'm so euphoric about it. And then there's that possibility of that marriage banquet. So the
Mhm.
celebrations or the exhibitions that you have going on, showcasing and entertaining, parties maybe, socializing, hosting hospitality things that events that helps, you know, people in whatever situations that they're in, whether it's that Make-A-Wish Foundation or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Okay. But showiness, that pomp and ceremony that you want to show off because you are the center stage in the spotlight and you want to be recognized and acclaimed and applauded, because and awards given to you because, yeah, you know, you're all smug about it because you've earned it. And I'm sorry, but where your sex and making love is concerned, you're very sensual, okay? And you will make your play with that. And you're very good with pleasing that person.
Mhm.
Maybe a bit of overconsumption with it. And it might deal with a bit of eating yourself and, and drinking, overindulging maybe,
Mhm.
because it's all about the me time, the self care, that self love, because you're worth it, and the pampering and the luxury. So all of that is
Wow.
in play here in this lifetime. Okay.
That's
All
fabulous.
right.
Pisces Decan 3. Pisces Decan 3. Um, March 11th through the 20th. The tarot card associated with this card is the 10 of Cups. 10 of Cups. Fabulous card, otherwise known as the Happy Family card in Tarot. So, the Cinderella effect of the meaning of the decan as a whole is very marked with this card since it suggests emotional fulfillment, settling down and starting a family. You have found the love you have searched for. You may have a picture painted in your head of the ideal partner in life for you, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with this as we all have our own idea of what we are looking for and a dream we would dearly love to have come true. Painting a picture is appropriate as this is such an imaginative decan. Karmically for artists, the 10 of Cups suggests exceptional work. Your creations will be truly inspiring and might even be your best yet. Like high flying Pegasus in this life, it is all taking off for you now, and you may even get some global recognition. So, Pisces Decan 3, some key things for this card are happiness, inner happiness, happy families or groups or relationships in general. It's about the family in general, or family events and homecomings, gatherings of any kind. It's about, in this lifetime, we're talking about your relationship with children. It's about your soulmate, if you use that language, or destiny, fate. It's about marriage or long term relationships. It's about loving and the love nest. It's about, in this lifetime, good fortune and luck and striking gold, or perhaps the blessings and the gifts and the gratitude that we feel. And in fact, it's a deeper sense of appreciation that we have with this card. Um, so Pisces Decan threes, it's about peace in general and harmony and serenity and feeling emotionally fulfilled and balanced and content that just that sense of being relaxed and stable and secure, and that sense of well-being and domestic bliss. This is all encompassed in this 10 of cups. It's the idea of delight and joy, and the sense of glowing and warmth, and just the idea of fun and play. And you can see these kids down here having some fun and playing. And it's about creativity and sharing with others and embracing others and caring for others, being supportive of self and community and the home and the homestead. And maybe you're a bit of a homebody, that's okay, but it's about country living and putting down roots and teamwork. Yes, there is a bit of idealism in the idyllic lifestyle here, but it's the happily ever after card. It's that energy for Pisces Decan threes of dreams coming true and being a part of and being working within the social and community affairs, being instrumental in those affairs, and family welfare in general. It's about finding a truce or an end of hostilities and the energy of forgiveness. There's a bit of illusion. We have a rainbow here, so it's a little bit of illusion and fantasy. And again, that idyllic, or the idealism, idealistic or fairy tale energy, and a bit of a selling of a dream. But that's all part of the energy of Pisces Decan 3 and the 10 of Cups.
All
So
right.
we have a lot going on. I know we're well over time right now, but we do want to go ahead and get into our tarot time. Hold on.
All right. So what we're gonna do is, like I've been telling everyone, with each of the end with these decans, your card that was yours, that was pulled for you, that's your decan card, whatever it is, will be the front and center card that will be in the present. And then I want you to shuffle your deck, and then you will pull a card that will be in your past. So it will be on the left of that card, that's the present. And then you will pull one that is the future, which will be on the right of that card. And you will do the reading for
Mhm.
that. And that is your homework for you guys.
Yes.
Okay? So,
Yes.
Rhonda.
The-
What a
I have, well, we have to announce what? We're finally going to announce what's coming up next year, the 13th year of
oh right,
Witches
Witches
Fest.
Fest. Yes, yes, yes.
And the big announcement of what?
Witch Stock.
Yay! Hold your
So,
horses,
okay.
everybody. We want to share the dates.
All right. That was awesome. All right.
So, yeah, excellent. So, yes, Witches Fest is back next year as usual, as Star has initiated this event in a very sacred space in Astor Place, quite honestly. We're
Yes. Yes.
thinking about what Francis was speaking about earlier. So, that is July 6th this year, still in Astor Place, still free. But Witch Stock is happening, and that will be from July 5th through,
The
what was it, the
13th through the
13th?
13th.
Yes.
Yes. And Witchstock is a camp that we have rented for us to be there that entire time. And anyone that books with us for that entire time, we would have a bus that will take you to Witches Fest on the Saturday and bring you back to the camp. And we
Yes.
will be running through every day with different workshops, different events that we plan, even a wine tour. There are different things that they've got going on, like boating of different types that you can do, run the rapids or whatever it is underwater. And then on the last day, that Friday, we are going to be having a beautiful picnic underwater right there with all of us, which we would provide the food
Yes.
for that. So I hope you
Yes.
guys can join us for the entire week next year from the 5th to the 13th of July. Please do come
Yes.
for Witches Fest and Witchstock. Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely. And you guys, if you're on Facebook, the event has already been posted out there. So
Yes.
please do look for it and share it with your friends, make your plans, and let us know if you are going to be joining us.
Yes.
It's going to be fabulous.
Yes. And lots
So,
of great vendors as well, vendors and presenters. So you guys all come on out and enjoy.
yes,
Okay.
definitely.
All right.
Awesome. So next week, Friday, December 22nd, we will be having our guest.
Ellen Evert Hopman. That would be great to have
Yes.
her coming up. Awesome. Awesome. And we
We're really
wanted to
looking
thank
forward to that.
Francis Billinghurst from Australia for joining us tonight, and everyone in the chat. We
Absolutely.
want to thank you all for being with us tonight. It ran a little bit longer than we normally ran. But
Yeah,
again,
you know
thank
what
you
happens.
all. And do please,
Like, subscribe, and share.
yes, yes,
So
yes, yes. And do come back next week.
have a great week, everyone.
Bye
Thanks
bye.
again for
Take care.
joining us. Bye bye.